For this lesson, you are going to be solving one-step equations. Now, I know you guys have already done some of this, but this lesson will review that. So, first of all, somebody tell me, what is an inverse operation?
Two operations that undo each other.
Something that undoes the other one. So, if I were to say addition, what's the inverse operation of that one?
Subtraction.
Right. If I say division, the inverse operation is? Very good. Equivalent equations are just equations that have the same solution. So one side is equal to the other side. Okay, you had two properties of equality you had to write down. The first one is the addition property of equality, which states if you have x minus a equals b, then you can add a to both sides. So I could say plus a, and I would still have x equals b plus a.
So you write this down.
Yes, write this in your journals. Okay, so what you're looking at is this first equation is equivalent to the second equation because all we did was add a to both sides. Any questions on addition property of equality? You do need to write down that it's the addition property of equality because on your test sometimes they will just straight up ask you, how do you know this is true? And you can say the addition property of equality is how you know it's true. Now the subtraction property of equality is the same thing. If I have x plus a equals b, then I can subtract a from both sides, and you still get x equals b minus a. And again, this first equation is equivalent to the second equation. Guys, this is just a really long way to talk about how you solve for a variable. That's all. So let's do example 1. If I start going too fast, y'all just yell at me. So we have x plus 7 equals 4. We are using the subtraction property of equality because it is currently addition and you need to do the inverse. So what am I subtracting?
7.
Yep, so minus 7 from both sides. I have x equals, because that cancels, what's 4 minus 7?
-2.
So the solution is x equals -3. If you're doing a very difficult problem, you can always check this by taking this -3, plugging it in the original equation where x is, and to see if it solves for 4, which in this case it does. All right, let's look at example 2. Put this in your journal. We have x minus 12 equals 3. What inverse operation am I going to use to solve for x here? Addition. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And I'm left with x equals, what is 3 plus 12?
2.
Very good. So your answer is x equals 15. So that's addition and subtraction properties of equality. Any questions on those?
No.
All right, let's talk about multiplication property of equality. What's the inverse of multiplication?
Divide.
Division, very good. So if I have x divided by a equals b, I want to use the inverse of division, which is? So I'm going to multiply times a to both sides. That cancels the a, and I'm left with x equals, and the proper way to write this is alphabetically. So instead of writing BA, I would write AB. Is it wrong if I write BA? No. But proper way is to write it in order alphabetically. So that was the multiplication property of equality because we multiplied to move a variable. Make sense? So let's do division property equality. So we have a times x equals b. To move it, we do the inverse, which is divide by x. So I'm left with A equals B over X. So that would be division. You're just moving it around to get the A by itself. So let's do a couple examples. This is example 3 in your book. We're going to solve negative 6x equals 48. What is this currently doing? The negative 6 and the x.
Multiply.
It's multiplication. So the inverse of that would be?
No, you divide by.
Correct.
-6.
Division. So we're divided by negative 6 from both sides. I'm left with x equals, what's 48 divided by negative 6?
-8.
Negative 8. Very good. Okay, let's do example 4. We have x over 4 equals 5. We're on page 86 in your books. This is currently division, so what are we going to do to move it? Multiply. Multiply times 4, both sides. So you're left with x on the left. What's 5 times 4?
20.
20. So my answer is x equals 20. Any questions on any of those operations? Pretty simple, right? All right, so now we're going to make it a fraction. Let's complicate it just to make sure we know what we're doing. All right, this is example 5. We have negative 2/7 x equals 4. Now, when you have a fraction, the way to move it is to multiply it times its reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of 2 over 7?
7 over 2.
Right, so you just flip it.
Which up.
Also, yeah, keep the negative on it. So what we do on one side, we do to the other. So this is a negative times a negative. We'll make sure that a positive. And then the 7 times 2 over the 2 times 7 cancels all this. So you're left with just x. So now over here, we know the answer is going to be negative because it's a negative times a positive. And you would do 4 times 7 over 2, which is just 4 times 7 divided by 2. What's 4 times 7?
28.
Divided by 2.
-14.
Correct. So your answer would be x equals negative 14.
Couldn't you like put a 1 under the 4?
Yes.
Yeah, but it just still equals the same thing.
Yeah, but if it helps you, please do it. Yep. You can make the whole number a fraction by putting it over 1. Because then it's really easy. You multiply 7 times 4, 2 times 1, and throw the negative in front. Very good. Any questions? Let's do 1 or 2 more reciprocals. Reciprocals. So I'm on the guided practice at the bottom. You may choose whether or not you're going to put this in your journal. I just want to practice it a couple more times with you. So we have 5 over 6, w equals 10. How do I solve for w?
Reciprocal.
Which would be what?
6 over 5.
6 over 5.
Whoop. Where's my undo button? There it is. 6 over 5. Same thing on the other side. So that cancels. I'm left with w. 6 times 10 divided by 5 is what?
8. Wait.
Close.
6.
So it'd be 60 divided by 5 is
It's 12.
very good. Make sense? Do you want me to do another one? Or do you feel good?
I feel pretty good. But you can do it.
Let's do one more with a negative on it, just to practice.
The numbers.
Oh, here we go. We'll move it around. So I have 9 equals negative 3/4 m. So again, we have a fraction, so we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. What's the reciprocal of this one?
Is 4.
So negative 4 over 3. Negative 4 over 3. So that's canceled. I'm left with m equals, what is 9 times 4 divided by 3?
Negative 12.
Yes. Good. Think y'all got it? Any worries? Let me know. Your assignment is to do exercise numbers 4 through 56, only the evens.